Hi, I'm Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style.
And I'm Jill Chivers from Shop Your Wardrobe. And we've been asked a really interesting question. I'm so fascinated by this, which is if I have a particular kind of personality, you know, I've got a quieter, a softer, gentler personality, or it's a more dramatic, powerful personality, and my colour palette that flatters me seems to be in the opposite direction of that. So I'm a quieter personality, but I've actually got quite dramatic colouring. Or I've got a dramatic personality, but my colouring is actually quite soft or smoky or dusky. Or how do we marry the two? And I think what we're getting at here is around congruence. How do I feel congruent with my personality and my colour palette? How do I bring those two closer together? And I thought, yeah, this is really interesting.
So it is a question, and I do see this quite frequently. Now, in the old kind of seasonal system, often they'll always say winter is high contrast. You have to wear this high contrast, high contrast, high contrast.
Yeah.
And that was always the message. It was like if you have a bright palette, and therefore you have to wear it in a high contrast as well. But there are different ways of putting your colours together. So when we think about contrast, there is value contrast and colour contrast. Mm-hmm. Each of them will have an effect on how a colour looks.
Right.
Now, if I take a light colour and put it with a dark colour, that creates a high value contrast. So each of the colours pop from each other.
And that has a dramatic look.
Yeah. Or if I take a bright colour and put it with a dark colour, again, it's a very dramatic, dynamic sort of look.
Yep.
So if you've got that bold personality and you've got this sort of, it's very easy to put it together.
Right.
But if I've got a softer personality, like I don't want to be dynamic. I don't want to be perceived in that way because that's how we read those colours.
Yeah.
What do I do? So I just go, you choose colours. You might lower the contrast now.
In the ensemble.
In the ensemble.
Right.
So instead of choosing the light with the dark, I might choose, to put too light, maybe a light colour with something more medium. I'm going to I might not reduce it down to really low contrast, but I'm going to reduce it from the high contrast to a more medium contrast.
And that just changes the whole look.
Yeah.
Still in the dramatic colour palette, but much softer.
Now, say I still want to wear my high contrast because it really suits me, then what I'll do is step it. So we've talked in a video about how value contrast is like a set of stairs.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll find a pattern that's blended, and we've talked about blended. So I'll put my light with my medium and then with my dark, and again, it takes away the straight light dark.
Yeah.
Really is much more bold.
Yes.
Versus when I put that
something
step
in the middle
between,
Brilliant.
it suddenly it takes away that feeling of being so in your face.
Yeah, yeah.
The other way to create the illusion of contrast, but with a lower value contrast, is actually to up the colour contrast sometimes.
Okay.
But, so if I take, say, colours that are more opposite each other on the colour wheel, even though they are both, it's a low value contrast, but it's a higher colour contrast, they appear more different.
That's gold. That is really, really gold, because that's a softer look, but because of the colour contrast. See, it's stuff we just didn't know. That's marvellous.
And so it's how colours react against each other.
Right.
So this is particularly useful when we're thinking about if I've got a softer palette.
Yeah.
And often people, as particularly too, and I suspect this is why Jill really looks at, going, I don't ever want to go there. It's because
I whinged just like that just before.
Is that, part of Jill's dressing style is drama.
Right.
So it feels too soft.
It does.
It feels like I've lost the drama.
That's exactly what it feels
like.
But
if I pop some things together that are more different, that no longer feels boring and dramaless.
Yeah.
That feels exciting.
That's vibrant to me.
And it's vibrant. But it's just with a softer palette. So you just use the colours you have in your palette.
Yeah.
So you might step it, so always just moving up and down the steps, or find blended patterns rather than a direct black-white or light-dark pattern.
If I want to amp that up in the vibrancy state, so go one thing further, how would I do that?
So then what I might do is then add a bit more value contrast to it as well.
Right.
So I've added a dark neutral to it,
Yes.
that then gives it a bit more pop.
Okay.
So then that's how Jill can do. She might go, even though I'm a more medium contrast, I might create a slightly higher value contrast.
Right. Yeah.
But with my colour contrast.
Yeah.
So always using that colour contrast. Like right now, because Jill wears some brighter colours, she might just wear one colour with her leopard print neutral.
Yes.
Versus she would go, no, I just always need to add 2 colours in that are more different.
But both of them need to be softer. They need to be toasted
so they're
and warmed
they're
down.
within the palette.
Yes.
So it's still within your palette.
Yes.
It's just wearing them in a different way.
And that's why this as a tool is invaluable, to be able to play with it like that. It really is a tool. It's just not something to throw in the desk drawer in your handbag and not use. It really does give you so many jumping off points for playing around with your colouring. Look at that. I mean, that's just, it's gorgeous.
It looks bright and vibrant.
It does.
Yeah.
Even though none of the colours are bright.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all just about, it's using your palette. It's finding how you put them together for you that gives you the internal, like it matches your personality as well as working with your colouring. Because often what people want to do is go, well, I'm just going to keep wearing the bright colours.
Yes.
Rather than going, okay, well, how do I use this palette to appear bright, but the colours don't overwhelm me, the colours flatter, and I think it's getting that balance. So it's going, okay, do I lower the contrast? I think this is where the longer I've been doing colour consulting, the more I appreciate that contrast, both colour and value, are one of the most important tools in putting together outfits and the way you actually get dressed. Because when I first started, it was just, here's your palette, off you go, because I was not taught about it.
And that's what happened when I first got mine. Absolutely no training in how to use it.
And it's only from looking at people and dressing clients for so many years and doing thousands of colour consultations where I go, this is so different, because this is why, I've got 18 groups.
Yes.
But people will still wear them in a different way.
Yeah.
The way Jill wears it may be different from the way the next spicy or zesty wears it, which is different from the next one, because there is both that personality element and if you are going to bring in a higher, say, value contrast when you are not high value contrast, do it in a small way. This is often, it's rather than do it in a half bottom and top, it's a piece of jewellery, a lipstick,
a cami top
like a little V of cami top.
Right.
Bring it in a small proportion, because it's not going to look as kind of slightly off balance as if you are doing it.
So it's an accent, sort of 10-20%. I think you use those kinds of
10-20%,
proportions.
It's an accent. It's not the main feature.
So this issue of congruence between your colour palette and your personality, I think is something that quite a lot of women are trying to work out and get right for themselves. And it's certainly for me an emerging issue, not something immediate. And so I really appreciate that women are trying to work this out. So wherever the perceived imbalance is for you, the answer really is in contrast and using your colour palette as a tool and playing around with those issues of colour contrast and value contrast, and finding those combinations that make you feel like you, that make both your natural beauty and your natural colouring and your beautiful natural personality work in concert with one another. And it's so doable when you have some knowledge and some good tools.
And I do think, and I notice in particular, it's often really common for women who have been used to wearing brighter colours. They find it really difficult to move down to those smokier colours.
Right.
And I understand, because I'm one of those people, and it's quite a big mental shift.
Yes.
So then go, well, how do I make them appear brighter? And I think if I can still make them appear brighter, then I will still feel like me.
Yes, exactly. And the same applies in reverse, where I've got this fairly dramatic colour palette, but I myself might be more introverted or reflective, or those quieter personality types. And you can do the same in reverse. And that's what's so powerful about this. So, of course, we'd love to hear about your experiences of getting this balance right, and how you are melding things that might seem like they're disparate but can be brought together. How are you doing it, and what are you finding?